Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome back to Spin Cycle Live. I'm your host, Nathan Hale. Today, we have yet another episode. Now, I gotta say, when I looked at the news feed this morning, I was not sure what the show was going to look like, to be completely honest with you. It looked like a rather light news day, and then the longer I waited, the more and more and more information came out. We have information from Tulsi Gabbard regarding the Obama crime ring. That's what I'm going to be calling it now. It's the Obama crime ring. He's the ringleader of the crime ring, as far as I'm concerned. John Brennan, Rand Paul eviscerating Anthony Fauci. Of course, we now have an update for the Freedom Convoy folks up in Canada. So be sure to stick around till the end of the show to hear about all of that. But first, let me know how you're doing. I hope you're having a great, fantastic day here. It is a beautiful 92 degrees outside today. It's a hot one out today. But we're braving the heat. We're staying cool here at Spin Cycle Live. Make sure you are watching the show Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern time for all the hot news stories, all the stuff that nobody else wants to cover, because people find it interesting. I find a lot of the stuff that I find everything that I cover in this show extremely interesting, and generally a lot of other places don't want to talk about it, is what I've noticed. So if you want to hear news that you might not necessarily get from other people, you listen to this show right here. And of course, we're always going to cover the biggest breaking stories out there today. But with that, let's get right into our very first story. This comes from Fox News. So, new Russiagate invest directly points to Obama. DOJ will decide criminal implications, says Tulsi Gabbard. There's Tulsi Gabbard. She always looks so good. She always looks so good. I love her outfits in the white. I just gotta say, like, she's been doing the whole thing where she's just wearing all like white. She's got this kind of like cream color, jacket on. She looks great as far as I'm concerned. She looks fantastic. All right. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard doubled down at a White House press briefing Wednesday, alleging the Obama administration promoted a contrived narrative that Russia interfered in the 2016 election. Quote, there is irrefutable evidence that details how President Obama and his national security team directed the creation of an intelligence community assessment that they knew was false, Gabbard said. They knew it would promote this contrived narrative that Russia interfered in the 2016 election to help President Trump win, selling it to the American people as though it were true. It wasn't. Gabbard's comments come amid the declassification of a trove of documents from the U.S. intelligence community that allege the Obama administration politicized intelligence and the U.S. intelligence organizations did not have direct information that Russian President Vladimir Putin sought to support Trump's election in 2016. Quote, all come back to and confirm the same report. There was a gross politicalization and manipulation by intelligence by the Obama administration intend to delegitimize President Trump even before he was inaugurated, ultimately usurping the will of the American people, Gabbard said. Gabbard also said that the declassified documents have been shared with the Department of Justice and FBI so those agencies can evaluate if any criminal implications stemming from the materials are warranted. Quote, we have referred and will continue to refer all of these documents to the Department of Justice and the FBI to investigate the criminal implications of this for the evidence. Gabbard said, correct. The evidence that we have found that we have released directly point to President Obama leading and manufacturing of this intelligence assessment. There are multiple pieces of evidence and intelligence that confirm that fact. President Obama didn't do a very good job of covering up his trails while he was president. The newly declassified documents name Obama, in addition to other administration officials, including Director of National Intelligence James Clapper, CIA Director John Brennan, National Security Advisor Susan Rice, Secretary of State John Kerry, Attorney General Loretta Lynch, and Deputy FBI Director Andrew McCabe. Gabbard's appearance before reporters at the White House came just hours after she released a 2020 report from the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, which said the intelligence community published potentially biased and implausible intelligence suggesting Putin sought to help Trump win the election per the usual orders of Obama. This is absolutely insane. I never thought that I would hear that this was like confirmed. Like, we all knew, I feel like, that the whole Russia situation, the whole Russia hoax was in fact a hoax. I don't think any of us doubted that it wasn't a hoax, right? But the fact that we now have evidence from the administration saying it was in fact a hoax. We have the information right here. I have the papers. Like, here they are. I have them for you. Take them. Read them yourself. It proves it's a hoax. It proves that the Obama administration and the Democrats actively sought to destroy Donald Trump before he was even president in 2016 and just completely degrade his character. Now, I don't think that that Obama's going to end up in jail. I don't think any of these people are going to end up in jail. I really don't. But the fact that we have the evidence now, I mean, it takes the wind out of the Democrats' sails as far as I'm concerned. They can't say that, oh, Trump, colluded with Russia any longer. That's just false now. So the other thing I'd like to point out is that lost my train of thought. My gosh. Live on this show, losing my train of thought. I'm getting so excited over all this. Oh, this is what I was going to say. I think this personally puts Obama on the same level as Richard Nixon. I'm going to put it out there. I think it does. I think it puts him on the same level as Richard Nixon, that Richard Nixon, tried to interfere in an election. He was impeached for it. He resigned from office because of it. I think Richard Nixon wasn't actually that bad of a president, to be completely honest with you. But he's just remembered for all the stuff that happened around his impeachment. This is what Obama should be remembered for. Obama should 100%, 100 years now, we should look back at Obama and remember this was the guy who tried to completely manipulate the entire country into believing that a foreign adversary interfered in our election and tried actively to not have Donald Trump elected because of it. did not try to get Donald Trump elected because of facts, because of opinions, because of how he felt about his character. No, he manufactured a story. Barack Hussein Obama manufactured a story against Donald J. Trump to try and get him to lose the presidential election so that the rising star Hillary Clinton could win herself. Absolutely disgusting actions of the Obama administration. Gosh, it makes me so much more glad that Hillary didn't win once again. I mean, looking back, I don't think we truly realize how awful of a place our country would be right now had Hillary Clinton won. I mean, just crazy, crazy stuff. All right. Let's talk about John Brennan now. So, from the Daily Wire, John Brennan responds to suspicious allegations from Obama Russia intel controversy. So we just talked about Obama, right? So now we're going to hear John Brennan's response. So this article did come out yesterday. So this is before the article that we just read now. But I think it's still interesting. So let's read through it. Former CIA Director John Brennan rebutted what he said were suspicious allegations that former President Barack Obama and his team sought to gin up intelligence to create a narrative of Russian interference to assess President Donald Trump in the 2016 election. In an interview this week on MSNBC, Brennan criticized Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, the CIA Director John Radcliffe, who have accused him and other Obama-era national security leaders of manipulating intelligence. Well, now we see that there's a fact. They just released it. We just read the article. It says this was a fact. So accuse no longer. Accuse no longer. This happened. You, John Brennan, you're responsible for this. Quote, the suspicious allegations that both she and Radcliffe are making, based on things that they're putting out, really are quite concerning and quite dangerous, Brennan said. Yeah, dangerous because it implicates you, buddy. Fox News reported on Monday that the Department of Justice confirmed receipt of a criminal referral from Gabbard regarding the intelligence assessment released in early 2017 that claimed Russia meddling sought to help defeat Hillary Clinton. Quote, it's worse than ever politicization of intelligence. Gabbard told Fox News host Maria Bartiromo during a Sunday morning feature interview, quote, it was manufactured intelligence that sought to achieve President Obama and his team objective, which was undermining President Trump's presidency and subverting the will of the American people. Ultimately, it will be up to federal prosecutors to open up a case, but some congressional Republicans are calling for arrests. Democrats have shrugged off the controversy. Quote, I actually hope the DOJ takes this to court. They won't because they know that the howls of laughter from the court will be heard in four time zones. Representative Jim Himes, Democrat from Connecticut, said, ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee. Quote, watch for DOJ action. Not going to happen. And when it does, I hope all the MAGA, very online people ask why. I hope they do take it to court. I really do. I don't think anything will come of it. I don't think they will take it to court, but I really hope they end up in court. I would love to see some sort of criminal action come from Obama, or at least have to admit on a court record that he did manipulate an election. That would be great. Trump himself has called for severe consequences for those involved. Brennan encouraged people to actually read the intelligence assessment, contending that it makes clear that Russian President Vladimir Putin did order an election interference campaign that de-integrated Clinton and boosted Trump. Quote, anybody who looks at the intelligence community assessment and the work that was done will see it was very carefully worded, meticulously done, and it stands up to scrutiny, Brennan said, adding that, quote, there have been numerous reviews of it and it didn't say any of the things that Tulsi Gabbard alleges it said, or didn't say. The former CIA director also suggested that Gabbard is making, quote, ludicrous mischaracterizations of the intelligence community's work but is pushing them on social media in order to gain some attention and integrate herself with Trump. My God. So, John Brennan, just absolute scum of the earth as far as I'm concerned. Tulsi Gabbard doing a great job. This is Tulsi Gabbard way up here. This is like John Brennan, like way down here in terms of how we rank these two human beings. So go Tulsi. We love the work you're doing. I'll never badmouth Tulsi, man. She's great. So interesting stuff. And if this is where it ends, It's been a wild ride, guys, but I hope that more comes of it. So about Rand Paul now. All right. Rand Paul to rifle criminal referral of Fauci to DOJ after Biden autopen revelations. Paul evidently smells blood in the water. Anthony Fauci was among the individuals with questionable track records who received controversial pardons just prior to former President Joe Biden leaving office. Fauci, the fifth director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, specifically received a quote full and unconditional pass for possible federal crimes going back to January 1st, 2014, around the time the Obama administration supposedly halted funding for dangerous gain-of-function research. Molecular biologist Dr. Richard H. Ebright of Rutgers University, a leading critic of Fauci's falterations with gain-of-function research, previously provided Blaze News with insights into why Fauci might require an accountability shield, noting that he, quote, violated federal policies on gain-of-function research and enhanced potential pandemic pathogen research, committed conspiracy to defraud and perjure, used federal funds to commit crimes, and covered up the cause of a pandemic that killed 20 million and cost $25 trillion. The Oversight Project revealed earlier this year that, like the other pardons hastily dispensed before Biden left office, Fauci's was signed with an autopen signature device. Unfortunately for Fauci, there is presently a great deal of uncertainty over the former president's involvement with the autopen pardons and their legitimacy. Kentucky Senator Rand Paul announced on Monday that he was rifling his criminal referral for Fauci to the Department of Justice. Paul's announcement follows the New York Times publication of Biden's weak defense of his handler's use of the autopen, along with insights into who was actually behind Fauci's last-minute pardon. Quote, perjury is a crime, Paul said on X, and Fauci must be held accountable. During a Senate hearing in July 2021, Paul pressed Fauci about the National Institute of Health funding research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology and the origins of the coronavirus. Dr. Fauci, are you aware it's a crime to lie to Congress? Paul said. Quote, on your last trip to our committee on May 11th, 2021, you stated that the NIH, quote, has not ever and does not now fund gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute of Virology. And yet, gain-of-function research was done entirely at the Wuhan Institute by Dr. Shi and was funded by the NIH, he continued. Paul's smoking gun was a 2017 WIV paper on SARS-related coronavirus that discussed gain-of-function work on coronavirus and acknowledged funding from NIAID, as well as from the United States Agency for International Development's PREDICT program. Quote, viruses that in nature only infect animals were manipulated in the Wuhan lab to gain the function of infecting humans, said Paul. Quote, this research fits the definition of the research that the NIH said was subject to the pause in 2014 and 2017, a pause in funding of gain of function. When afforded an opportunity to retract his previous statement, Fauci instead dug in his heels, stating, quote, Senator Paul, I have never lied before the Congress, and I do not retract that statement. Adding that the study referenced in the 2017 paper was not gain of function. Quote, Senator Paul, you do not know what you're talking about, quite frankly, added Fauci, and I want to say that officially. Paul, by the way, Rand Paul's a doctor, isn't he? Like, I think he went to medical school. I think that of anyone in Congress, he knows what he's talking about. Paul subsequently referred Fauci to the DOJ, asking then Attorney General Merrick Garland to open an investigation into the former NIAID director over his testimony to the U.S. Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions. The senator noted that contrary to Fauci's suggestion, research conducted at the Wuhan Institute of Virology and funded under NIAID award, these numbers, fits the definition of gain-of-function research. The recipient of this particular award was Peter Duraski scandal plagued organization Eco Health Alliance, which congressional investigators indicated facilitated gain-of-function research at the Wuhan lab and was formally debarred along with Duraski, whatever that guy's name, Peter, in January by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Paul asked the Biden DOJ, gosh, this goes on for a while. Paul asked the DOJ again in 2023 to probe Fauci for alleged lying to Congress after the House Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Pandemic released an email apparently showing the former NIAID director acknowledged that gain of function was indeed taking place at a Chinese institute, which the U.S. Government Accountability Office confirmed had received NIH funding along with the WIV. My gosh. I think a lot of this is really going to come down to if they can overturn the autopen whole situation, right? If they can prove that the autopen was not actually legitimate, which I don't think it technically was, I think it'll totally open the door to going after people like Fauci. But until that happens, I really don't think that we're going to see all that much from this. I'm glad to see that once again we're calling for an investigation into the scumbag. This little gremlin here, and hopefully some good comes of it, or we just learn more from it. But my God, I don't even want my face to be on the same screen as that guy. He's such a little gremlin, right? Anyways, so our last story here, let's talk about the Freedom Convoy up in Canada. So if you don't remember, the Freedom Convoy happened early 2022, and it all had to do with Canada's complete drive to become a tyrannical dictatorship and basically lock up everyone in their country, all because of COVID-19, which goes great into our last story, by the way. So what happened was Tamara Lich and Chris Barber got together and they created the Freedom Convoy. And the whole purpose of this was mainly was Canadian truckers. They were really upset. I believe what was happening at the time was a lot of these truckers didn't want to get the COVID vaccine. But Canada said, hey, if you want to travel between provinces, you need to be vaccinated. Okay? So that wasn't going to fly with these truckers because a lot of them have to drive coast to coast to deliver goods and stuff from, wherever they're picking up and shipping them to. And if they're having to take a COVID test every single time they pass a border and wait several days, it's just not going to work out. And of all the people who don't need to get a COVID vaccine, it's the truckers who are sitting alone in their cab, in their truck all day long. They're not around anybody. So it was just completely ridiculous. So they basically got together and them and a whole bunch of other Canadian truckers all drove to the Canadian capital, set up shop and blocked off all the streets in their trucks and just basically sat there like sitting ducks. And they're like, hey, we'll leave as soon as you lift these restrictions. And what ended up happening is, I believe Canada invoked the Emergencies Act, which gave the Prime Minister an enormous amount of power to basically do whatever he wanted as a dictator. It's the first time the Emergencies Act was ever introduced. This huge sweeping piece of legislation, totally unheard of in the United States. And they used it on these poor Canadian truckers. So now Tamara Lich and Chris Barber are facing the crime of 7 years in prison, each of them, for the felony of mischief. They're charging them on mischief. That's the actual definition of what the Canadian judicial system is charging people with. Mischief. Mischief. Have you ever heard of anyone going to jail for mischief? All right, let's read this article. So this comes from Global News. The sentencing hearing for Freedom Convoy leaders Tamara Lich and Chris Barber has started in Ottawa months after the two were found guilty of mischief. They were found guilty of mischief. Mischief. So there's been several years now since all this happened. So now they're finding that, the courts take a long time to get to people. So dozens of people have filled the courtroom to watch the proceedings. 2 days have been set aside for the parties to present their sentencing submissions. The Crown is seeking a prison sentence of 7 years for Lich and 8 years for Barber, who also was convicted of counseling others to disobey a court order. We'll talk about that more in a second. Lich and Barber were key figures behind the convoy protests that occupied downtown Ottawa for 3 weeks beginning in late January 2022 to protest vaccine mandates and other pandemic measures. The protests ended after the federal government invoked the Emergencies Act, which I was just talking about, for the first time ever. The convoys cleared out of Ottawa downtown core in a 3-day police operation that began on February 18th. Ontario Court Justice Heather Perkins McVie said she found Lynch and Barber guilty of mischief because they routinely encouraged people to join or remain at the protest despite knowing the adverse effects it was having on downtown residents and businesses. What are those adverse effects, you might be wondering? It was a little loud because they were honking their horns and made it a little bit difficult for people to drive to get to places because the roads were cleared off. Hardly a huge crime as far as I'm concerned compared to what the entire country of Canada was up to at the time in trying to control its citizens and coerce them into getting an experimental drug. Oh, it was a little loud. Sorry, excuse me. Barber was also found guilty of counseling others to disobey a court order for telling people to ignore a judge's injunction directing convoy participants to stop honking their truck horns, which Lynch was not charged with that offense. So Barber is potentially getting an extra year in prison because he told people, hey, we're going to protest peacefully, but we're going to keep honking our horns, right? We're going to keep doing that. Whole year for just that single little offense right there. Criminal. In a separate Ottawa-based trial for Pat King, another convoy leader, the Crown sought the sentence of 10 years in prison for mischief and disobey a court order. 10 years for this! Can you believe it? 10 years in prison. My God, a whole decade. King was sentenced in February to 3 months of house arrest, 100 hours of community service at a food bank or men's shelter, and a year of probation. At least he didn't go to jail. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, I keep calling him Pierre Poilievre. Pierre Poilievre, that's how you pronounce the name. Criticized the Crown's sentencing proposals for Lynch and Barber in a social media post on Monday. Poilievre compared the sentencing range to sentences for another crime and asked, how is this justice? Exactly, how is this justice? Right, the justice would be saying, hey, the Emergency Act is unconstitutional. We can't do this. This is ridiculous. Justice would be saying, yeah, what Canada was doing at the time was insane. Insane. And these people had the correct response to a government trying to invoke tyranny on them. Well, it's rare for elected officials to comment directly on a sentencing hearing. Poilievre's message was echoed by several other prominent conservatives. Deputy Conservative leader Melissa Lantsman called the Crown's proposal sentence political vengeance, not actual justice. Exactly. It's totally that. The Freedom Convoy made the Canadian Parliament and Justin Trudeau look bad and actually changed something. We can't have that in Canada. We can never make our government look bad because our government says what goes around here. And you better just sit down and shut up and take it. Some conservatives, including Poilievre, were openly supportive of the Freedom Convoy as trucks and other vehicles clogged roads around Parliament Hill. Both Lynch and Barber were found guilty on charges of intimidation, counseling to commit, were found not guilty on charges of intimidation, counseling to commit intimidation, obscuring police, and counseling others to obstruct police. Justice Perkins McVie said intimidation carries a sentence of menace or violence. She said that both Lynch and Barber repeatedly called for protesters to remain peaceful throughout the protest. Exactly. The other thing I'd like to say is we are threatening these people with 10 years in prison. 8 years, 7 to 8 years in prison. And where are the crimes? I recognize these are different countries, but where are the crimes for all the people who went and destroyed stores in Minnesota during the BLM protests? Where are all the crimes for all the people wrecking streets in Los Angeles over the years? Where are all the crimes against them, right? Those were not peaceful protests. Those people deserve prison. They actually committed crimes. They literally broke into stores and stole stuff and set cities on fire. Yet all the Freedom Convoy folks did was sit in the streets, hang out, and say, hey, we want our freedom. Give it to us now, and we'll leave. It's as simple as that. We'll show you some pictures of the Freedom Convoy. So here are some photographs of the Freedom Convoy. So you see all these trucks heading here. I'll pull up the full screen here, so you can see a little bit better. So here's some photographs of it all. So you can see these trucks over here all heading down the highway to go to Ottawa. So look at all of these, as far as I can see. Here's someone sitting out in the streets. We want our freedom, mandate freedom. That's what it looked like. Here is the Canadian capital right here. You see all the people lining the streets up. See they pulled up in Canadian flags. One of the most patriotic things I think I've ever seen in my entire life. Here's what some of the streets look like. Just backed up with a whole bunch of people. You're not destroying houses or anything. They're just sitting there. They're just hanging out. Tens of thousands of people. And it wasn't just in Ottawa. A lot of these people lined up on bridges and met up with people along the way and gave supplies. You can see 2022 is 1776. They're acting very American. It's crazy, giving me goosebumps just looking at all of this. But they were there for quite a few days in the cold. And yeah, it's quite the thing. So here's another picture. So you can go and find a whole bunch of photographs online from all of this. It's quite the interesting thing. Looks like there was a book called The Freedom Convoy inside the story of it. If you want to go and read it, I might actually add that to my reading list. So interesting to see. So yeah. But that's all I got for y'all today. I hope you had a great time with us here on today's episode of Spin Cycle Live. And yeah, we'll be back here on Friday. Let me know what you think of all the stuff that we talked about today. Tweet at me. Let me know. Make sure you share this show with friends. Let people know how great it is. Retweet it to your audience and tell people, hey, go and listen to Nathan Hale. He's got the best opinions on the internet right here. This guy right here. So with that, I've been Nathan Hale. This has been Spin Cycle Live. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace out. Bye.